What's going on, FA Nation? Welcome to the Fantasy Alarm DFS NBA live stream. John Impemba here with James Grande. James, 6-game NBA slate tonight. What's going on, FA
Playbook?
Nation? Welcome to the Fantasy Alarm DFS NBA live stream. John Impemba here with size. Tonight, we get to go right back at it and try to win some money.
Yeah, and good night last night, profitable night. So let's get back at it tonight. Another little 6-game slate. Not a lot of injury news, John. We got the Aaron Gordon news. That broke. He's playing. Josh Richardson news. That broke. He's playing. Ricky Rubio last night. He's playing. Obviously the most notable piece of news that we got last night is Kevin Durant's absence. That's
right.
The most notable news. Again, DeMarre Carroll is out. Okay. Markieff Morris is doubtful. Okay. But, none of these moves are really moving the needle that much. When we go over to Vegas, we have some nice totals. We kind of said that we thought the Golden State Houston game was going to be at 240. It's still high, but it's only 230, which is the second highest number on the slate behind Brooklyn OKC, 232.5, 7.5 spread there. I don't know if you thought that was interesting or not, but we only have one game under 220, and that's Detroit Miami. That game is ugly. We don't need to force anything there. But every other game's over 220. There's not a lot of big spreads. 8.5 is the largest. Phoenix and Utah, and quite frankly, Phoenix has been playing better lately with all their guys stepping up.
Especially when they're at home. They play
right.
It was at home a couple of days or last week.
Beat the Warriors. And they beat
Milwaukee too. Yeah.
Two little nice 2-game stretch, Milwaukee and Golden State. Potential the NBA Finals. So Vegas is nice and was easy to read today. Not a lot of injuries. So I'm feeling good about today's 6-game slate.
Yeah, that's good. And before we jump into it, we need to talk about just the monster deal that's happening right now at Fantasy Alarm. We're bundling together the fantasy football season. Crazy, but NFL free agency officially started today, even though everybody's been signing for the last 2 days. And you get the MLB season package together. We want you to win your fantasy baseball and your fantasy football championship this year. We want to take you from the draft to hoisting your fantasy trophy for strictly a limited time only. We're offering both together for less than $100. You get Jim Button's draft guide, the ultimate cheat sheet, in-season coverage, including League Sync to help you win all your season leagues, plus complete DFS coverage with playbooks, rankings, optimal lineups, over 30 tools that sports over 6 DFS sites. And we have the lineup generator as well, James. Just incredible amount of tools that we have. Plus deep coverage for NFL all the way through the Super Bowl. We're already giving away NFL. It's amazing. We are here to help you directly all the time in all sports. We offer chat 12 hours a day, help you with your personal questions about your drafting and during the season as well. Go to fantasyalarm.com/MLB season now to check it out. That's fantasyalarm.com/MLB season. Pay once and win through the Super Bowl. It is just an absolutely insane deal right now. You're getting the whole football season with the baseball season if you purchase it right now. It's just it's a great deal.
I don't want to say that anyone's spoiled or nothing, but holy moly, there's no way you can't take advantage of that deal. Please buy it. I'm not asking you because I work for Fantasy Alarm. The deal is just insane. Anyone. Oh, my head hurts.
It's $97 right now. It's $97. You get the MLB package and the NFL season for free.
Yeah.
So take advantage of it now. We know you guys are here for basketball, but you're here for basketball probably because you were winning during the NFL season. You're in the NFL season probably because you were winning during the baseball season. If you haven't taken advantage of any of the lifetime memberships that we had or the year memberships that we've had, jump in now. Purchase this. Get all the way through the NFL season and be set for next year all the way up. So check it out. Definitely worth the money. And hopefully we'll win you that back tonight, James, with this 6-game slate, right?
Yeah, we will. Not hopefully. We will, John.
I like it. I like the confidence. Well, let's kick it off. Let's start off at point guard. At the top, Russell Westbrook's there, top price point guard. You and I have kind of gone a little bit back and forth about the value of spending up on guys in certain slates. I've sort of been the anti-spend up of late. I felt like the value hasn't really warranted it. Their production hasn't really warranted spending that kind of money. How are you feeling about the top of point guard tonight? Because there are some interesting matchups. The Kevin Durant news makes Steph Curry a little bit more interesting. He's cheaper than Westbrook. On FanDuel, Westbrook is $11,700. On DraftKings, Westbrook, do you have his DraftKings price in front of you? I think he is
11,000.
Yeah, 11,000. So again, 11,000, right? So even then, high price there. So where are you going to the top of point guard tonight?
I mean, you can play Russell Westbrook, no problem with it. It's just not a priority of mine. I'm going to be prioritizing Steph Curry. Currently projected as the highest owned player. It's no shock. His usage rate is absolutely through the roof. His fantasy point per minute production is through the roof without Kevin Durant on the floor. And, this is a 230 total. It's going to be a high octane, high tempo game between two of the top three teams in the Western Conference, the Western Conference Finals from a year ago. I mean, the Rockets were one game away from beating this powerhouse. They were honestly maybe a Chris Paul injury away from beating the Warriors last year. So I think that's all in their minds. This means something. I know we've kind of been talking about how the Warriors just don't really care in the regular season, but the Rockets are 4 or 5.5 games back. If they can cut it to 4.5 tonight with a win, right, I think the Warriors are starting to feel a little pressure. They don't want to go through Houston again. I mean, again, you'd rather just play on your home turf all playoffs. So I love Steph Curry. I do think this is going to be a playoff environment. I like Mike Conley. I know he's not like top tier on DraftKings, but he is like the same price as Steph Curry on FanDuel. He gets a matchup against Atlanta. It's obviously a matchup that we attack from every angle, every position. Atlanta's the fastest paced team in the NBA, which obviously bodes well for Memphis, who plays at a snail's pace. And we've made money all year long attacking them. Plus, it doesn't hurt that Conley's coming off 3 games in which he's
huge,
gone 50 plus in 2 of the 3 and almost racked up 50 in all 3. So right. It really, you can't go wrong, I think, with Curry or Conley. And I think on DraftKings, you might be smart. I mean, I know a lot of ownership's also going to go to Tomas Satoransky. I think those 3 probably soak up most of the ownership. But if you want to be a little more contrarian and fade Satoransky, you play Conley and Curry in a cash game or tournament, whatever, and you fade Satoransky. I mean, you can play all 3 of them if you really want. You could honestly just play all 3. But I think Curry, Conley, Satoransky are the top 3 cash game plays. Probably the top 3 point guard plays altogether. But Chris Paul probably has something to say about that as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, like, I love my Conley price on DraftKings. And as you said with DraftKings, like, you can play so many guys at point guard as well. They're also shooting guard eligible. We'll touch upon them when we get to shooting guard. But yeah, Chris Paul is averaging 48 fantasy points in 2 games against the Warriors this year. We're expecting this to be a competitive, high-scoring game. And though Paul hasn't really paid off value of late, I still think this is a matchup where they're going to need him and Harden to really be on top of their game. To make this one a competitive one, because talent for talent, the Warriors still sort of have that edge. It seems like, but I mean, yeah, Chris Paul for sure, Satoransky for sure, really strong plays. What do you think about some value tonight? Dragic, we think he's going to play 25 minutes. He gets a really nice matchup against Detroit. Tyler Johnson's been really playing well. He gets Utah. And your boy DJ Augustine, forever underpriced, gets a really strong matchup against Washington.
I don't know. I need to hear 25 minutes before I'm in on Dragic. I just need it. I need it like I need air to breathe. If it's 20 minutes, I don't know if I'm going to play him. I'd rather just play DJ Augustine, who's going to play 30 minutes. We've kind of seen it with Isaiah Briscoe going out with the injury for the year. Since the injury, Augustine's played 28 to 31 minutes every game, which is where we want him to sit for him to become viable. He's 4-3 on both sites. I think that's a really excellent price tag. I think my next value, surprisingly enough, would be Ish Smith. I don't love the value tier. I don't think we need to do it in cash games. Like, I think Augustine's fine for cash. Ish Smith has outplayed Reggie Jackson. And I don't think again, it's a GPP play only, but if you look at their last 3 games, or 4 games rather, Ish Smith in 3 of the 4 has been over 25 minutes. Reggie Jackson has not in all 4 of those games, even in the close ones. 2 have been blowouts, 2 have been close. Even in the 2 close games, Ish Smith has outplayed Reggie Jackson. So, for what it's worth, I do think there's some merit to playing Ish Smith. I don't love the matchup, but the price tag is only $4,100. And I think if there's a value point guard that's going to be played, it's Augustine. So the pivot off Augustine is definitely Ish Smith.
All right. Let's jump on over to shooting guard. We have James Harden at the top in this matchup against Golden State. Again, I've been sort of an anti-spend up on Harden, but he does get a matchup here where he's averaging 66 fantasy points on DraftKings against the Warriors. So again, it's hard to look at Warriors Rockets and not really want to get a piece of that. So I can obviously understand a lot of ownership there. But I mean, Bradley Beal, who we were both on as a pivot off of Harden the other day, paid us off and went for 60. Same scenario could potentially be had tonight against Orlando. What's your thinking here at the top of the shooting guard position?
I prefer Harden on FanDuel. I don't believe Beal at 11.6. Like, I get it, but how many times has he he's been consistent. He's getting us 50, and we talked about that for a while now. It's like 50 is the floor, so I don't hate it. He doesn't have as much upside, and their price tags are too close to one another on FanDuel for me to pass up Harden over there.
Between Harden and Beal,
right? And it's crazy. It's $1,400 over on DK. So I like Beal on DK. I like Harden on FanDuel. I like them both. I think they're both viable for all formats, considering their matchups, considering basically everything involved in both of them.
What do you think about Donovan Mitchell here against Phoenix? Thinking that maybe Phoenix makes this more competitive game. Phoenix could even outright win this one. Could be starting a point guard tonight. Do we have official word on Rubio or Nato being ruled out yet?
Both are going to play.
Both are
probable to play.
Okay, so what's your taking on Mitchell now moving back to the primary shooting guard position?
I don't have much interest at his price tag. Not at his price tag. It's been a thing of ours to play him when Rubio's out, not when Rubio's in, and I think 9,400 is way too expensive. 8,400, I'd rather spend at the same price tag for Booker, who's showing more upside. Klay Thompson, who's been incredible lately and has a 35% usage rate without Kevin Durant. So, do I think Mitchell's completely off my player pool? No, I think he's fine for tournaments, but I am prioritizing other guys over him.
Yeah, in 3 of the last 4 games which Thompson has played, he's gone for pretty much 50 plus over on DraftKings because of the 3-point bonus. So loving Thompson there at 7,200. He's $8,000 over on FanDuel. The next tier down, you got a guy like Avery Bradley at $6,000. You have Terrence Ross, Eric Gordon at 5,600. Evan Fournier also. Knowing that Aaron Gordon is going to play tonight, does that limit your interest in either Magic guys? And what's your take sort of on this mid-tier range of shooting guard?
So I think Avery Bradley's the guy. At least in cash games, is 35-plus minutes every single night. Only $4,800 on DK. And I don't mind the 6K price tag either because we get an extra $10,000 to mess with.
Yeah, I don't know what they're waiting for on DraftKings to bump his price. I mean,
we know this by now. DraftKings
$4,800. They just haven't touched them. No.
Yeah, it's too easy of a play over there. And I'm with you on the Magic guys. I was more on them when Aaron Gordon was out. Now Aaron Gordon's going to play 35-plus minutes. He's going to take away from Fournier. Ross, we know, is a tournament play. If you want to play Ross in a tournament, I literally have no issues with that. I think D-Wade was more of a play, and Waiters was more of a play when Richardson was questionable. Now Richardson's going to play. I don't know if we need to do it. I think it really goes down to guys like Kevin Huerter, Alan Crabb. I think in this value tier, Andre Iguodala, those are the guys you want to attack. I think that's where we should look after the top tier and maybe 1 or 2 options. Avery Bradley's too easy, like we said. But if you're not going to play Avery Bradley and if you're making multiple lineups, you're not going to play Avery Bradley in all of them. Kevin Huerter's coming off a 26 actual point game. Alan Crabb was projected our highest owned player, went off, still only 4K. He's going to start the game in shooting guard, which we love attacking OKC at the shooting guard position. Plus, it doesn't hurt that they now have the highest game total on the board, which is kind of surprising. But
let me ask you something about Alan Crabb, because I have sort of a developing opinion as we sit here, and I looked at our current early projections of ownership. It was 4 or 5 game slates ago that we saw DeMarre Carroll as a top projected player. We questioned it, we scratched our heads, and he had a really strong performance. It was a couple of days ago that we had Alan Crabb as the top projected player. We sat there, we're scratch our heads, all right, maybe it can happen, and he went off and had a huge game. Tonight we have Joe Harris at 44%. Is our ownership projection just really pegging the Brooklyn Nets player that we should be using in our lineups tonight? Are you believing in that conspiracy narrative theory that I'm developing live as we do this live stream?
It's a good thought, and I'm not totally against Harris either. With Carroll and Treveon Graham both out, Harris should theoretically play 30 minutes. He's the primary small forward essentially. I think it depends on how Alan Crabb starts the game, because we know when they close, they don't close with Alan Crabb at shooting guard. They close with Dinwiddie, and they close with Russell. So that's going to move Crabbe or Harris, depending on who they want to play, to the small forward position. So I think like it's kind of a toss-up. They're paying Alan Crabbe more. And I don't want to sound like they're playing guys based on how much they're paying them, but they've kind of, for no reason at all, played Alan Crabbe all year long. Like, why has Alan Crabbe played 26 minutes a game this year? He's really done nothing to warrant that. And now he's playing well. I mean...
Yeah, I just look at the last couple of times we've seen
high
ownership Nets plays, and it's worked. And we sat here and we were like, that seems off. And then you look... And we were texting each other at like 7:30, being like, "Look what's going on in the Nets game." So I don't know. I just wanted to point that out because Joe Harris we have at 44% on FanDuel and 23% over on DraftKings tonight. While Crabbe is 8% on DraftKings and I think it was 14% on FanDuel. Not to go on a tangent here, but that was just something I noticed.
It's valid. I mean, it's definitely a viable. It's definitely something worth taking note of, John. It's not like just like this is a coincidence. Like, I don't know if it is a coincidence because if you remember both those games too, there were also like 230 totals. The Nets have been involved in like 230s like every game. So I mean, it is definitely something to take note of for sure. Good catch.
He went for 34 fantasy points in that first match against OKC too.
Alan Crabbe actually had a really good game against OKC as well. He scored 22 actual points and scored 34 fantasy points against them.
Bold. All right. Sorry to distract you from the rest of the shooting guards. You mentioned Iguodala. I like it. You talked about how he could be part of that death lineup that they roll out there with no Durant. Any other value shooting guards you're taking a look at? I know you mentioned like Corder and whatnot. Anybody else on your radar here?
No, I think Corder. I mean, we just said 4 guys under 5K, so I think that suffices.
All right, over at small forward, we have Paul George. I can't get behind Paul George here. I understand the game total and everything, but as I've talked about probably ad nauseum by now, especially on the podcast, the man's shooting like 28% over his last like 5 or 6 games. Until he breaks out of the shooting streak, I don't want to keep riding it because he's just going to cost you money. I understand the night that he goes for 70, he's going to win you a lot of money, but I just, to me, he's not someone I can build my lineups around the way he's playing right now.
So we kind of were talking about his ownership on the podcast last night, and I figured it would be more on FanDuel considering, the lack of depth at small forward. And it's kind of right. Like, we have him currently listed at 25 compared to 19. I'm in on Paul George, and I think the shooting is definitely an issue, and it's definitely a factor and something that we need to consider. But we also have to consider that he took 8 shots last game and still put up 41 fantasy points. If he takes 20 shots and he still shoots 40% from the floor, which obviously is high for what he's doing right now, in that same scenario, he gets us nearly 60. So this is a guy that we were talking about, and you've talked about all year long, as some people were considering him before this little stretch as the front runner for the MVP. So I'm having a hard time believing that it's just a bad streak, and I think this is a game that he can break out of it. Again, highest total on the board. Brooklyn's not the best defensive team. We're missing DeMarre Carroll, who has been regarded as a very good defender throughout his career. So I do think there's merit to playing Paul George. I am playing him primarily on FanDuel because we have to play 2 small forwards on DraftKings. I can play 3 shooting guards that are qualified for small forward. So I'm really leaning on FanDuel, but it's also there's just the position. I hate the position. It's very scarce. It's very ugly, especially when you consider for cash games. When you go down this list, you're going to be like, we can do it, but do we want to do it? I don't know. It's so for cash games, he's definitely in for me.
Yeah, that's fine. Just looking at some defensive numbers, again, defensive rating is kind of, defensive stats in the NBA is sort of up and down as it is, but Alan Crabbe's a 105 defensive rating player. He would be the best on the floor for them tonight. Joe Harris 110. So if Joe Harris started small forward, very obviously strong matchup for George here. He's had good matchups lately, and he just hasn't come through shooting ball wise. So that's kind of what's been frustrating. If we aren't obviously paying up for PG tonight, where are you going? I have Trevor Ariza in the starting five video tonight. I think he's just a very safe play. Like he's pretty much going to give you 25 with the ceiling of 40. He's only 6,400 on FanDuel. I think he was like $5,900 on DraftKings. So I know the matchup DVP wise, and he's got that 7-footer and Jonathan Isaac he's going to have to deal with at times. But Ariza's just a guy that gets the peripheral numbers, kind of does enough to give you a safe play.
I think he's good. It's like one of those guys where like you talk about and you're like, oh yeah, like Trevor Ariza, like good play. And then at the end of the night, you make 10 lineups and you're like, oh, I don't have Trevor Ariza in any of them. Like not because you didn't like him, just because like your builds went elsewhere.
Yeah.
3 straight games of 30 plus, or 3 of the last 4. I mean, that's encouraging. And I like him. I don't love him. Like if my builds fall to Trevor Ariza, I have no problem playing him.
Yeah.
But I'm not also like one of the first people put in my lineups. I'm not putting Trevor Ariza in.
Yeah, I find them it's more of like when I build my GPPs, I like guys that have obviously the high upside, but I also like guys that at least give me like a reliable base. And I feel like it's not often that we get an absolute dud game out of Ariza. So I'm just kind of going in that direction. And what we've talked about is sort of as an unsexy player pool tonight at small forward. Where else are you looking at small forward tonight?
Again, I don't like this position. It's definitely my least favorite position on the board. I think Joe Ingles is fine for cash games. I mean, he gets a good matchup. We have Joe Harris projected as one of the highest owned players on the slate. If you want to go that route, I think that's fine. I think Derek Jones Jr. could be take a look. I think is he a power forward so he's small forward on FanDuel. Yeah. And I know Josh Richardson playing, but he's been playing minutes 23, 24 the last 2 games. With these guys healthy, I think it's something to consider when you base on matchup. Like Blake is just too athletic for Kelly Olynyk. I don't know how long Kelly Olynyk can stay on the floor. James Johnson's kind of been axed out of the rotation. Mm-hmm. I think Derek Jones kind of fits the mold. So if you want to completely punt, maybe you just do it on FanDuel. You don't even look at him on DraftKings.
That risk on DraftKings.
Right, of course. And I don't. It's not me blaming you either. Again, the position is bad. Like Jabari Parker is a tournament play. Jake Crowder, I think, is someone you could probably play in all formats. He's been playing 30 minutes a game every night because Derek Favors can't stay on the floor anymore. Like his minutes are going down even further. So those are really. It's really it. I guess Oubre for a tournament. I had
any Ingles love all those assists, or do you think they go down?
I already said him. That was the first guy I said. Thank you for listening. And CJ Miles in a deep dive tournament also. He was actually the guy we were talking about on the podcast last night when Ivan Rabb didn't play minutes. Right. Noah's minutes were down. CJ Miles played 28, and that's 4 of the last 5 games he's played 24 minutes. So, I mean, if you take that for what it's worth, he gets Atlanta. So CJ Miles is one of those guys who gets hot. When the buckets start coming, and he's going to stay on the floor.
Yeah, we got a lot of chatter in our chat right now saying that people are high on Orlando tonight. A game that matters for them. Obviously, we talked at power forward. Aaron Gordon's going to play tonight. We liked Jonathan Isaac before, and we liked him maybe potentially better with Gordon being out. Do you still have high hopes for the Orlando guys, even though they're throwing out a full roster tonight against Washington?
I mean, Augustine's fine. I like Augustine all formats. I actually think Aaron Gordon's fine for all formats. I love Nikola Vucevic for all formats. And Isaac and Ross for tournaments for me. That's 5 guys. I mean, Isaac's been playing 30 minutes. The last 3 games, he's played over 30 minutes. I think Steve Clifford realized, all right, in order to make the playoffs, we just got to play our best guys. We're going to play them all the minutes. We've kind of been limiting them all year. I mean, realistically, the Magic players don't play a lot of minutes until recently. So I do think Jonathan Isaac's fine at 5K, 6K. I do like that price tag. And I do like the Magic. I mean, it's something we talked about, or I talked about on XM. It's something we've talked about on the podcast a couple times now. We're getting to the point in the season we have to pay attention to these things. Teams that are with playoff implications, teams that are tanking, teams that are coasting, Milwaukee, if they grew a big enough lead, or if Golden State builds a big enough lead in the West. It's just things we have to take into consideration when we're doing our builds. Orlando is right in the thick of things for the 8 seed. So, they're going for it, so they're going to play their guys. So I definitely have interest in the Magic tonight.
All right. Yeah, they're currently one game behind Miami and for the 8th seed, so very much into it. At the top of power forward on FanDuel, we have John Collins versus Memphis. We've talked about how much he's been playing right now. 46 fantasy points against New Orleans, 63 against Brooklyn. Do we continue to play Collins as that price tag rises?
I think you can in a tournament. I'm not against it. I'm also not like all into it. I'd actually rather play Blake Griffin, as crazy as it sounds, because Collins has just been better. He's averaging like 40 fantasy points a game right now, over his last handful of games. But I just can't look past. I couldn't look past Blake Griffin at 8-3, and I said to myself, like, man, like what could have been. And I'm doing the same thing tonight for $200 cheaper, and I know it's another tough matchup with a low total. He's not going to be owned because of that. You know, all 5 other games have 220 totals or more. This game has a 208 total. $8,100 for Blake Griffin. He's averaging 50 fantasy points against this Miami team. And that was with like Hassan Whiteside playing 30 minutes a game. Right. So 25, 30 minutes a game. So the rim protection has been there. With Bam outplaying Whiteside, I mean, there's less rim protection. Bam's still good. Less now without Whiteside. I'm not ignoring Blake Griffin at 81. I'm just not. It's a price discrepancy that we need to take advantage of, because he could go off for 60 tonight, and then tomorrow or the next day, whatever the Pistons play, he's up to 9K, and we're like, crap, we could have taken advantage of that price tag. So do I think it's a cash game play? No. I think it's a complete GPP dart, but I do prefer Blake to Collins tonight if we were talking about the higher price guys.
Another guy that you and I noticed on the podcast last night as sort of a maybe underpriced was Draymond Green with the Kevin Durant news. He's $5,900 over on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he's more of a mid-tier price. There he's at $6,600. Matchup against Houston, he hasn't put up like great numbers in the season series against Houston. Only averaging 22 fantasy points in 28 minutes. But, I mean, this is a guy that fills up the stat sheet. There's going to be more shots to go around, more rebounds potentially go around with Durant out of the lineup as well. What's your take on Draymond here? And how would you play him? Is he a cash game viable option, GPP, both? Where are you looking with him tonight?
Yeah, I think I would play him in both. Same with Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon and Draymond, I think, are both in the same category for me. I think you could play him in cash. I think you could play him in tournaments. It's a different Aaron Gordon. He's playing 35-plus minutes if he's going to play. So I do have faith in Aaron Gordon. He's been better over the last, month. Draymond, the same thing. Does his production kind of waver with Kevin Durant off the floor? Yes. But there's going to be more rebounding opportunities. Durant, there's 8 rebounds to go around. Draymond, obviously, we know is very active on the glass. Do I love PJ Tucker defense? No. Do I think he sees it? No. Yeah, but it's not going to impact. I just don't when they play. It's PJ Tucker usually guarding Durant. Now that Durant's not there, would they put him on Clay? Maybe. So maybe Harden.
Do you think he could run around with Clay?
That's my concern, which is why I think Tucker ends up on either whoever they start, Alfonso McKinney or Iguodala when he plays 30 minutes, or ultimately Draymond. Whatever the case may be, I mean, they're not going to guard him regardless out on the perimeter. So maybe there's a few more shots to come Draymond's way. I do have interest in Draymond. I think he's viable all formats. Obviously, it's a little dicey because he could get in foul trouble, but I do think Draymond is someone we can trust in cash games tonight.
That's fine. We do have a question in chat. I know we're going to jump down to some of the value, but the question was Tucker or Crooks tonight at power forward. So
PJ Tucker's getting a lot of love from on the ownership front, and I get it. He's going to play a lot of minutes. But now, Daniel House is there. Who knows how many minutes he's going to cut into Tucker. Yeah. Kenneth Faried is back in that rotation. He played about 20 minutes. So Tucker's averaging 35 minutes on the year. We saw him play 31 against Charlotte. Maybe it was because it was a blowout, but Charlotte actually cut that lead. Really, it was 30 into 10 in no time because Kemba went off. Maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe it didn't. I will lean Karooks. We talked about it last night. He's been playing minutes without Travion Graham. He's been starting without Travion Graham. Now there's no DeMarre Carroll. So now he's starting power forward, basically backup small forward. I mean, I like Karuk, so I'd lean there. If you want to go from an ownership perspective, it's PJ Tucker. But I'm standing by Karuk's. I think he's the better play. I think he just possesses more upside. Tucker could just stand in the corner. As good of a defender as he could just stand in the corner on offense for 40 minutes. So
Yeah. What other power forwards are in your radar tonight?
um not like many. Bobby Portis for tournaments, I think is fine. Bam Adebayo he's actually just outplaying Hassan Whiteside in terms of production, in terms of minutes. I think Jeff Green could be considered in tournaments. I think Jeremy Grant possesses a little upside if Markieff sits. Like maybe there's some extra minutes that go his way. Other than that, like I'm not. Derek Favors is fine, I guess, but again, his minutes are down, his production is down. Those knees can't hold up for too long. So other than that, like all the guys that I mentioned are basically it.
All right. Move over at center. You and I are both just all in on Vucevic tonight. Thoughts on him and obviously in his matchup against Washington, and what other, I guess, centers are on your radar?
I mean, it's really hard to ignore they're the worst rebounding team in basketball. Washington is. So Vooch is coming in, averaging 12 a game, averaging over 11 against them. I don't think he's not going to play 36 minutes. They need him to win this game. So Vooch is an elite play. Drummond's for tournaments. Rudy Gobert, elite for all formats, 4+ blocks in 3 straight games. He dominated Phoenix the first time around, 16, 12, 3, 2, 3 for 47 fantasy points. I hate the price discrepancy from site to site. Like 9,800 on FanDuel is too expensive, but I get it, I guess, from the block upside. But he's only 82 on FanDuel, so I like him there. I love Boogie tonight, and I think this could be a night that we see him go over 30 minutes. They need it. I did a deep dive kind of into his meetings with Capella. 3 of the last 4, he's either had a triple-double or a double-double. The one game where he didn't, it was like 28, 5, 5, 4, 5.
So we finally get 30+ minutes out of him, though?
Yeah, I think this is the night. I think this is the night we see 30. 7,400 is too cheap, whether he plays 28 minutes or 32 minutes. It's just so 7,400 is fine. Plus, if you're stacking a game, this is the stack. You stack this game and then you kind of mix in pieces from other games. Right. So I think to get the most exposure to this game, I mean, it'd be wise to get Boogie in there. He averages 1.42 fantasy points per minute, has a 30+% usage rate without Kevin Durant. I mean, it's money, baby. It's money. But value, I don't love the value today. I think it's Noah.
Okay.
And Jared Allen on DK, who's under 5K, who's gone over 28 fantasy points in 3 straight games.
Okay. I was answering some questions in chat, so I didn't hear if you mentioned him, but Steven Adams, you talk about him versus Brooklyn?
Steven Adams is fine. We attack Brooklyn. He's been steady. He's only 6,300, 6,900, 35 fantasy points per game over his last 6. So Steven Adams is fine. 8 in a tournament. It's fine at the same price tag. But other than that, I don't have a deep-rooted interest in any other center on the slate.
Fair enough. We have some questions about your cash game core tonight. Where are you going?
My cash game core is probably going to be Steph Curry, Aaron Gordon, and Tomas Satoransky if I had to pick 3 players.
Alrighty. Any final thoughts?
Linus will be out in like 2 minutes.
Alrighty. Well, we'll be in subscriber chat, everybody, answering questions. 7 p.m. roster lock tonight, so get them in. Any news breaks, we'll have them for you. With that, good luck, everybody.
Catch you guys later.